You know what triggers me is when you put players on a watch list and you send the list to the sports information people at the schools so they can create graphics and everything. And then you get an email back that this player's not at the school anymore. He jumped in the portal last week and now it's this school. So college football is just nuts right now. It's not easy putting out a list with 700 and some names on it. And usually the list is only like in the 400s, but we've got 700 darn names this year because all these kids the NIL money is keeping them in school. So we've got all these 6th and 7th year seniors this year. So it's kind of crazy.
It is awesome. Yeah.
Not to put any pressure on you, Jim, but last year at this time, you told us about Tyler Badgett at Shepherd University. And Maggie and I didn't even know Shepherd University. And now he's killing it in Bears camp. So you're going to have to find us some gems this year.
Yeah, that's how cool a story is that? Seriously, like Tyson
Badgett,
we want all our guys to get drafted. We had 100 guys drafted from the game last year. Tyson was not one of them. And so for an undrafted rookie to make a team is a big deal. And it doesn't sound like he's not only going to make the Chicago Bears team, he might be their number 2 quarterback, which it's a long way from Shepherd University in West Virginia to being the number 2 behind Justin Fields.
Do you think he's good enough to make it in the – I know he didn't get drafted. Is he a possible NFL quarterback for real?
Absolutely. No, we wouldn't. I mean, we don't hit all the time, but we wouldn't invite him here last year if we didn't. And then, you see a lot of things on Twitter and social media and the internet about how guys are doing in preseason and whatnot. So, when I see that stuff, I want to know if it's real or not. So I just text my buddies with teams and I texted one of the guys in the front office in Chicago. And I said, is this real or not with Badgett? And he's like, no, he's like from day one. He's been poised. He's been accurate. He's been a leader. So they've kind of felt it from the time he got there that he was a guy that's going to stick.
That's awesome. Jim Nagy's our pal. He's the executive director of the Reese's Senior Bowl. They put out their watch list today, which is really cool. You can find it on their website. And, of course, we're attracted to the quarterbacks because it's shiny things, Jim, it's right in our face. I mean, as far as these – so, Caleb Williams, right, like as of now, he's in his 3rd year, so he wouldn't be eligible. But for the quarterbacks who are on here, who are you most excited to watch their season?
Well, that's a loaded question. There's a lot of those guys. I will say this, like one of the guys that's probably on a billboard on the side of a building close to where you at, somewhere in New York right now, Bo Nix at Oregon is going to be our highest graded guy going into the year. We actually offered Bo an invite last year, and he decided to go back to Oregon for one more. And he was a year ago at this time, he and Hendon Hooker were the 2 guys that started last year, kind of like early day 3, 4th roundish range. And then by the time we got to the end of the year, those guys for us had worked themselves into day 2 grades. We saw those guys as like 2nd round picks. So he's starting off the highest. But in terms of who I'm looking forward to see the most, I'm looking forward to seeing some of these guys that are in new places. Like DJU went from Clemson to Oregon State, and that's a 10-win Oregon State football team. Not many people realize what the Beavers are doing out there, but that's a good team. You have Brennan Armstrong, who we liked 2 years ago at Virginia, didn't have a great year last year. Now he's at NC State. The guy he's replacing, Devin Leary, is now at Kentucky. And then this Saturday over in Dublin, we're going to get our first chance to look at Sam Hartman outside of the Wake Forest offense. So I know a lot of NFL guys are looking forward to seeing that. So it's really a different year with so many new faces in their last year in a new spot, playing a new offense.
Jim, we have a lot of listeners in Oregon. They will like to hear that about Bo Nix. I would have thought maybe Michael Penix would challenge him for a grade. But Bo Nix is the highest graded guy you got?
He is. And we like Penix, too. Penix was down at the Manning camp this summer, so that's like the 2nd summer I've seen him down there. Yeah, he does a lot of good things on tape, and that's a good football team. I mean, Washington, if you look at the top of our board, they have 2 of our highest graded receivers. They have one of our highest graded left tackles. They have a good edge rusher. So they've got a good linebacker. Washington's a good football team. Oregon's a good football team. USC. This is kind of a little bit of a renaissance year in the Pac-12. It might be the last year of the Pac-12, but it might be a really good year for that conference.
The irony there is just it's too bittersweet, or just bitter, I guess.
So we're talking to Jim Nagy, Senior Bowl Director. So we did this thing, a SEC quarterback draft amongst the show, and I resisted so hard I wanted to call you and cheat so badly. But I have one pick that I love so much. Tennessee's Joe Milton, who is on your watch list. Senior Bowl watch list is out today. What is the ceiling for Joe Milton in that Tennessee offense? Oh,
that's a good one. Yeah, I see why you picked him. He's Honestly, I think whatever happens with Anthony Richardson this year in Indianapolis could really help Joe Milton. Now, Joe needs to play well. There's no doubt about it. But if you just look at the physical specimen, both these guys are exactly what you would want a quarterback to look like. They both can throw it, through a brick wall. When we were at the Manning camp this summer, Milton had a throw that was like 83, 84 yards across the field. Ridiculous. And he played well down the stretch. I know he had a couple good games. He had a really good game in the bowl game against Clemson. So he needs to show it on tape. But then you flip it to Anthony Richardson. If Richardson shows signs towards the end of this season for the Colts, I think that's going to help with the buy-in factor of Milton with NFL teams. So, yeah, really the sky's the limit. He's probably the guy going into the year that has the most ground to gain in terms of really proving himself.
Not just your watch list, but overall, who do you think is the defensive guy getting the most buzz headed into this season? Like, is there anybody who even might get Heisman votes, that kind of defensive star in college football right now?
Yeah, I don't know if there's that guy right now. I know a guy that should be getting a lot of buzz, and he certainly has enough buzz in the NFL. It's a guy named Jared Verse. He's a pass rusher from Florida State. That's a loaded Florida State football team. I mean, this is back to almost what Florida State what we're used to seeing back in the Bobby Bowden days. Nobody did a better job in the portal in the last 12 months than Mike Norvell in Tallahassee. And Jared Verse is a guy, like last year, he was playing at an FCS school, Albany. He transfers to Florida State. A lot of NFL teams had first-round grades on him by the end of the year, and NIL got him to go back. So he's a really high-end player. Had he come out last year, probable first-rounder. If he gets, if he takes that next step, he could be a top 10 pick. So I don't know if he's like a household name yet, but everyone in the NFL certainly knows about Jared Verse at Florida State.
We were just talking about him.
I read your watch list, by the way. You have the entire Florida State roster on your. It's like Alabama, Florida State, Georgia have a lot of guys. I mean, they're legit.
Yeah, basically the whole Florida State team. LSU's got like 16. Michigan's got a ton. I know Jim Harbaugh's made a lot of waves saying they could have 20 players drafted this year, which would be 5 more than the all-time record, which was that Georgia team a couple of years ago. But you lay it out this way. Someone asked me if it's possible. They've got 7 offensive linemen on our watch list in one class, which is crazy. That means they're all free agent players that at minimum free agents that'll get on a team next year in a camp. They've got 2 receivers. They have a tight end transfer from Indiana. They have 2 running backs. They have J.J. McCarthy at quarterback. That's like 14 guys on offense. We haven't even gotten to the defense yet. So there's some of the blue blood programs, the USC's, Florida State, Michigan. If you like those teams being good in college football, this will be a fun year.